All right, everybody. It's Melissa Killeleagh here, host of the Melissa Killeleagh Show, live in the studio at Finger Lakes One TV on Tuesday, May 15th, and I can't wait to share today's episode with you. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am what I would define as a mompreneur. I basically have a digital marketplace in the world of social marketing, and I work from my phone pretty much anywhere, and that's pretty convenient for me because I have a 2-year-old son and I'm taking care of him most of the time. I started this podcast a couple of years ago, well, almost 2 years ago now, just after Jack was born, after having some conversations with our incredible fearless leader, Jim Sinacropi, because he knew that I had some stories I wanted to share. So I really wanted to share stories of some of the amazing work that goes on in the Finger Lakes region, right? Like, we're tuning into the news and we're hearing like stories of devastation and loss. And while I can honor and respect all of it, I am here to tell you that there is so much incredible, inspiring news going on every day, all around us, all the time. And so I'm here to bring those stories to you, all about people living and loving and leading life in the Finger Lakes, right? These people are my everyday heroes. So in my show, there's 4 segments. I love to talk about women who make the world a better place, which is pretty poignant for our town of Seneca Falls, the birthplace of women's rights. I love to talk about men who make a difference. Out and about in the community is the next segment. I love sharing new businesses and ideas and ventures that are starting up, and then wrap up with some ideas and inspiration. So today, I've got a little bit of a story to tell. So as this podcast has unfolded over the last almost 2 years, my definition of community has really evolved. And so when I talk about the Finger Lakes, I'm not just talking about who is here right on this ground, although we have plenty of news to share, but I'm also talking about the world that digital media brings to us. And so here, community is going to expand today a little bit, and you're going to learn about this. And also, serendipity has brought a lot of incredible humans into my life over the course of this podcast, and it's such a blessing and gift that I get to cross paths with really amazing people, giving me all these signs that this journey is unfolding exactly as it should be. So today's guests start with this incredible woman, Abdul Taurah, and the story is going to be a little bit backwards because here's how the story goes. So a couple of months ago, a colleague of mine who was on the show, Debbie Morello, if you didn't get to see her, check out that episode. But she mentioned to me, hey, you really need to talk to this incredible woman down in the Finger Lakes, or down in the Binghamton area, called Abdul Taurah. And that was pretty much all she said to me, and she had to go, and that was the end of our conversation. And so a couple days later, I got a message from a man by the name of Roger Brooks, who you're going to hear from today. And Roger is my man making a difference in the world. But Roger said, hey, Melissa, I would really love it if you would be part of this online community that I've started, and this project, this challenge we've got going on. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and then let me know if you want to be part of it. And so basically, the challenge was to go live every day in this group for 60 seconds for 21 days. No problem. I have no problem with that. Let's do that. Giddy up. So I joined the challenge, and the very next day, the first person I bumped into online was Abdul Taurah. And so I knew, again, that I was on the right path here. So we're going to jump right into this because the interviews today have been pretty incredible. These have been recorded over the past couple of weeks, and Abdul Taurah is the CEO of Ebony and Ivory Consulting, and she's also the founder of Recognize Queens, and that's mostly what we're going to be talking about today. So here she is, a woman who really makes the world a better place, Abdul Taurah.
All right, everybody. We are here today with Abdul Taurah, which I'm super excited about. So our featured woman who makes the world a better place in so many different ways. Days before I bumped into Ab online, I had been told by a colleague and mentor, actually a former professor down in Binghamton, that this was a woman I needed to know, and that we needed to figure out how we might conspire together. So several days later, I received an invitation from a gentleman in Binghamton to participate in an online program, which you'll be hearing more about here in just a little bit. And the first person I bumped into was Eb, which was great. It was just like the synchronicity of the universe. So Eb, I'm so grateful for you to take the time and share a little bit more about yourself. I think that the world has so much to learn from you. I have learned so much over the past couple of months, which is wild to think that it's been a couple of months now. But in the group that we're part of, which is called American Real Live Tribe 21, we're going live every day. And so we get to kind of get little snippets of each other's lives for 60 seconds a day. And it's been a really beautiful and interesting experience. Eb is actually the owner and founder of a business called Queens Recognize Queens. And so, yeah, I would love for you to just share a little bit more about yourself, Eb, and your story, and tell us a little bit more about Queens Recognize Queens. It's something that sets my heart on fire. So
thank you. So I totally didn't know the background of someone like referring you to me. So I'd love to learn about that later. That's so cool. And I love how the universe works like that, because it's kind of like God blinking at you, like a little wink, like, I told you, girl. So Queens Recognize Queens is actually owned by my company, which is Ebony Tutora Consulting. It's a brand, an empowerment brand, holistic healing. It was pretty much developed out of, I think I knew I was always going to do it. It just was something that had to take time, through many experiences to come to fruition. So my story is, because my story is what leads me to do what I do. I grew up really poor, living on public assistance every month. My dad was in and out of jail my whole life. My mom's husband was hooked on drugs. So that was kind of the environment that I lived in. And I always just knew there was more. Luckily, I think for me, I had my grandmother, I had my grandfather, I had successful people around me that showed me that other light. So it was just weird as a kid to like be really poor and to like not know where we were going to eat, and to be shopping in like this place called the VOA where we used to go and get clothes, which like I feel like I've always just been super grateful, because as much as we did that, I was always really grateful and like really excited to find new stuff. I think that's where I got my fashion sense from, because you're kind of just like picking from whatever you can find, and a lot of it's old stuff people don't want. So it was like a lot of stuff from the 70s, like really cool bathing suits. Like that's I'm sure that's where my style came from. So I had good examples, and we would go in the summer with my grandfather, who was a successful antique dealer, and we would go to Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. We'd be on like the top floors because he was a high gambler. I had Louis Vuitton bags before I even knew like what they meant or like the significance they had to the world. Like I just was like, oh, this is just a purse my grandfather gave me, and it's kind of cool. It feels like leather, like it's nice inside. So that was just an interesting thing for me to experience. And then once I turned like about 15, I met a guy who was 10 years my age. We were in a relationship, and then towards the end of my high school career, we kind of broken it off, but then I ended up going back with him, and he was domestically violent. So all through my high school year, I'd miss days of school, especially if I had a black eye. Or there was one time where he had a jealous rage and was just accusing me of all these things, and he choked me, and I just had like whelps on my neck, and I was like, I can't go to school. It was very physically abusive, very psychologically abusive, because he would do stuff like that, and then he would take care of me. He would get creams and different things to like help me heal. And the funny thing is, I actually just remembered this the other day. I'm like, I kind of think that's where a lot of the holistic part of even what I do comes into play, because I would see him do all these different things. Like he would have different books of like prayers to say if you were like in court troubles, like, and I would read through them because I'm just curious all the time. Right. Different candles. I remember one time him and his mom did this ritual where they put candy on the corner of like this block that we walked around. So, and I never thought it was like weird. I just was like, oh, okay, like that works for you, And then what happened, we broke up, and naively, I went back to him because he had things that were mine, which were like super immature things, like teddy bears, like things that as a grown woman, like if you had that you didn't deal with, you'd be like, boy, you can burn them, including yourself. So I naively went back to him, and that was really where I learned about signs, and I learned about trusting your intuition, because as I was waiting for the train to go to him, my train that I was supposed to be on passed me 3 times. So again, my number is 3 as well. And everything in me was just like, don't go. And I went anyways. The minute I got in the car with him, he just like whacked me. I had a black eye. Then he held me captive for over 24 hours, which he ended up raping me, which was the blessing to me. It was such a blessing to me because I wasn't going to sleep and he fell asleep. And loud as day, like you were talking in my ear, I heard run. And I think when you're afraid, like when people have that power over you, I can see how people can be held captive and kind of just like induce their own shackles, because you become so afraid that you're like, do I run? Do I stay? What if I run? Like just all these crazy thoughts. And I just was like, well, if I'm gonna die, like I might as well die trying, you know? And it's a crazy position to be in. And that probably was one of the main ones that, you know, there's not many other experiences that like top that one. And I escaped and I told my story to some police officers that were walking down the street. I was in Brooklyn. And really from that moment on, I knew I had to empower women, because, you know, if I could find myself in a situation like that where, you know, I subjected myself to that, because I also knew like I put myself there. I was very accountable. Even though I was only 18, I was very accountable for, you put yourself here. I saw my mother go through domestic violence. My grandmother went through it with my grandfather and she left him. So to see that generational trend, you know, and that's how I dove into healing, because it did something to me, you know, and I can't say that it didn't make me feel unworthy. I can't say it didn't make me feel dirty. I can't say, you know, it kind of was like a mental thing that I knew I had to work through. So that's kind of where the birth, I feel like, of Queens Recognize Queens came from. And then I had kids, daughters, and then living in upstate New York, there's sometimes just a lack of soulful connection, you know, kind of like us talking here is soulful. We're talking about soulful things opposed to like, hey, did you see what Kanye said? I'm like,
right.
I don't care. You know, and wanting to connect with people and teaching women how to heal and how to love themselves and how to, you know, just to be a mom and to go out to clubs and to see women of all sizes. So this was in 2009, to see women of all sizes in like bodycon dresses. I was just like, okay, the world has a problem, because everybody wants to be sexy and everyone has this idea of what's sexy, but you're almost like downplaying your level of self-love, and you're looking for something, right? Women go out and dress like that because they're looking for something, but you get the wrong things and then you get the wrong attention. And then, so to just see that, you know, and I'm not someone who likes to go out and drink as a form of fun. You know, I think socializing is fun, you know, but I don't think we have to get wasted every Saturday to have fun.
Right.
And I knew it was my purpose. So I kind of was like playing around with these names with my husband. And I was like, I just really want to empower women. And then similar to you, it kind of like, I had that on my heart. I started an Instagram page called Queens Recognize Queens. I also did it on Facebook, where Facebook was like, you have to submit your ID because we don't know this is you. Like, you have to prove to us your name is Queens Recognize Queens. So I didn't know about business pages yet. And I was like, what? This was in 2014. So I was like, okay, I guess I can't have a Facebook page. And it kind of just started out with quotes. And then I went to a women's event who she was not from the area. She was hosting a brunch. Well, it was actually a seminar about domestic violence and breast cancer, which I think they're in the same month.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that just inspired me to do it. And I was already kind of in the line of work where I was a leader. I was working in a nonprofit. I was on the radio. I had a radio show. So I had all these platforms that kind of just brought everything to fruition. And it started out as an Instagram page. And then a year went by, and then almost like a year and a half, and I just was like posting positive quotes, and I had started a Facebook group that grew to like 3,000. I no longer have it. And in 2016, I started doing events. So it's still very much in transition. Honestly, right now I'm heading back to my roots of holistic healing, because I've been talking about empowerment this whole time, and I have not been mentioning that background stuff of crystals and meditation and, you know, sitting in the sun and dancing and singing and like doing all these different things that I do to get those things off my chest and to kind of work through my healing, which I feel like is it's a thing that you will do for the rest of your life to make sure you're always on the up and up, you know?
Absolutely. There's so much in your message, Eb, that is beautiful. And we could probably take like one little thread and go off for like, hours on each of them. But a couple of things that really stand out to me, like, first of all, kudos to you for really allowing the darkness in life to be what really brought you to the light, to the point of being the light for so many other people. Yeah. Right? Like, that's a gift. I know you know that, and I know you're told that a lot. But I know that, you also have this great soul about you that is like just receiving that humbly every time, right? It's like you have this sort of like almost shock factor of like, oh, I did that, or I impacted that person, or that meant something, because you really just authentically embody the things that you believe in. Yeah. And so it's not like you're out there with a purpose of like, I know that today I'm going to go inspire this person or do that. Right. It's like you just get out there and you pour your heart into so many different platforms. The American Real Live Tribe is just one of them. But I know everyone in our group finds inspiration, women and men alike, with your message and your positivity. So that's something, that I really wanted to say and to share. But the other thing that I find really interesting is this element that you're talking about, which is really like the sacred self-care that women often find easy to neglect, right? It's like those practices, like you were talking about, singing, dancing, like, whatever healing practices you have, your meditation. For me, it's like making sure I have my yoga practice daily, or I have a separate meditation practice daily. And it's the consistency of those daily disciplines that is really nurturing to the soul. The interesting part about it is when we don't do it, what we subconsciously tell our soul is that we're not worth it. And so going back to that theme you talked about in the beginning, which I also find to be very interesting, is that radical responsibility that you took for being in the. There were decisions you made along the way to arrive there. Now, granted, that doesn't take away from, it's not an excuse for somebody else's behavior. But what that radical responsibility does is it truly empowers us to say, like, what more can I do to ensure I don't go back there? What more can I do to make sure other women don't end up in that position, right? And finding it in those moments of sacred self-care is so huge. So like, I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. What are some of the healing or self-care kind of rituals or practices that are most effective to you, like that you feel really impact your soul the most?
So I'll actually share with you what I do with my clients, because it's funny, because I had a client say to me, and they've all been saying this to me lately, like, Ebony, I just feel this shift. Like, I'm so calm and I just feel this shift. And it almost makes me want to cry, because I don't, I think when you're a healer and you put yourself out there as a coach, as confident as I am, you still are like this worked for me, but is it going to work on a million people, right? You kind of have to just put it out there and see if it's going to work. And if not, you have to like kind of play with it, like, okay. But it really just is, what I find is like the most simplest thing is just doing what I did. And that's what I teach people. And I have a worksheet that I'll send clients that want to work with me exclusively. And I'll ask them questions. And some of those questions are, this is how I healed. How is my past and my present? So not having a dad led me to be attracted to older men, right? To love that fatherly figure, to love being cared for, even if that meant I was getting knocked upside my head for a long time, because I knew that I chose that at some point. Like, at first when he used to hit me, it was like, why does he do this to me? And then it was, why do you do this to you? And that conversation had changed, so when we're asking ourselves the right questions and we're taking some sort of responsibility, and especially the past and the present, whether it's, a lot of us have mommy issues where, like, my aunt, she catered to my mom all the time. So now as an adult, it's a resent thing where she's like, I just feel like I have to cater to her all the time. And I'm like, you don't. you have to see where that little girl in you is kind of reigning the day. Because a lot of times when you really think about it, you feel very little girlish when you feel afraid, when you feel timid, when you feel like, I just can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. You feel like a kid. You feel like you're 5 again, and you just want to ball up in fetal position and like cry your heart out. You know, so asking yourself that question, where is the past and my present, is super healing, because all the issues that led me to relations were issues I had as a child. Overextending myself, that was something that played into my future recently, and just doing what I've been doing, you know. And I like to let people know I have moments of not having and questioning myself and not wanting to talk to anyone and feeling like I'm just going to cry the whole day, because there's so much that has to be worked through, and you have to kind of figure out where the past is in the present. So I'll share this with you guys. I had a moment probably 2 weeks ago where I felt very unworthy. I felt very unworthy to do what I do. I felt like I don't know anything. I have nothing to share, like real thoughts, real things that were happening with me. And I had to, opposed to just looking at it and saying, okay, I feel unworthy, I had to say, why is this such a deep-seated belief in me that I've done all this stuff and I'm like feeling like this at this point. So bringing your past into your present. As a kid, I used to get great grades. I used to get awards for being an artist. I used to get awards for all kinds of stuff. Like I was always like student of the month, had great grades. Like I was doing it. You know, I was in chorus. I just was doing it, you know, despite what was happening at home. But no one was ever there for me. No one was ever there cheering me on. No one was ever there. There really wasn't that. My mom would come sometimes, but she wasn't like that kind of mom that would be like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. Like I make my girls feel like they're like the best thing since sliced bread. Like I want them to feel like that so that they don't have to go out in the world and find it. Like they already know. So, you know, I had to really come to terms with that. I had to really look at that. And sometimes you have to cry it out. You have to cry it out. That's healing. We push it so much that we say, okay, I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to move on. I'm a big girl and I could do this. And it's like, but sometimes you just need to cry. I had to cry that out. I had to cry it out and really look at it, really feel it, really understand where it came from and say, okay, goodbye. I see you. I hear you, little Eb. I feel you. However, that's not what's happening anymore. You are supported. You do know what you're doing. If anything, that proved to you that you have talent, that you have drive, because even though you didn't have anyone clapping for you, you still showed up.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of how I am. I had to really come to terms with it, but I was feeling really unworthy. Let me see one of the other questions I asked. There's 5 questions I asked. They're so simple. Let's see. Triggers. That's my other question. What are your triggers? Because sometimes it could be, let's say you're single and you see a happy couple kissing and you're just like, I hate my life. Like, or maybe you don't even think that. Maybe you just see it, you get down for a little bit, you feel it, you just feel like that tinge like poking at you. And then for the rest of the day, you're off.
Right.
And you're like, if we can source where that came from, right? And then you go to the thought, well, what thought was that? Oh, I'll never have a loving relationship. Right. And then you start breaking it down. Well, how do I know those people are happy? Right? What do I need to do to fully love myself so that I feel complete as is, and then whoever comes compliments me?
Right.
You know, so it's sourcing all of that stuff and really asking not why is this happening to me, but how can I get through it, and how can I view it in a way that's going to lead to wisdom and not just resentment or anger or all these other emotions that we have. Even being cheated on, I had to share that because that was really heavy for me at a point in my life where I just didn't think I would experience something like that. It took me back to a place where, opposed to looking at it as a situation and saying he's so bad and he's this and just putting all the weight on him, I had to be accountable for myself and say, okay, I'm not going to sit here and take the blame. I won't do that. But I will sit here and really look through my relationship and look through what I put into it and look at how I've handled certain things, you know, because I can be a certain way where I just don't care about your opinion. I don't want to hear what you have to say because I feel like I'm right. Am I going to ignore that and just be a woman and be like, okay, whatever, you know, because we laugh things off with our husbands and they'll be like, girl, you're crazy. And you're like, I know, honey, you know, I know, you know, or they're like, you know that thing where you kind of just get a little crazy about the house being clean a certain way, you know, and we kind of just shrug it off. But there's certain things that I think are detrimental to our relationship where we can pull back our reins of control and listen to our partner. And that was one of the things I hadn't always done. I didn't always listen, and I didn't want to listen. And I was kind of like, you're going to live on my terms and you're going to do what I need you to do. And he did, right? But at what point does someone break under that pressure, or then not still feel worthy enough, or not feel like you love them? All these different things. So, it was a vulnerable moment for both of us, and the fact that we could have gone through it and come out on the other side and still feel that same love and even more magnified. We just have to ask ourselves questions that yield wisdom and not just more questions.
Right.
That's part of the healing work that I think is the most important, besides the crystals and all the other stuff, because you can do all of that till your face turns blue. And I know people that do, like, they smell like patchouli, they don't take showers, they're totally woo-woo, but they're not abundant, they're not happy, they're not, and it's like,
how can you cultivate that? Yeah. What I see and what I hear that I think is so spectacular is, like, one of the things you're talking about is, really honoring your emotions, right? And knowing that the only way out is through. In this world of positive psychology, I think people get stumped every once in a while. They get stuck on this idea that they're just supposed to put the smile on and everything's okay. But the reality is you have to do the work to get there, so that's one piece that I see that's really beautiful that you do. And that comes from the next piece, which is like self-reflection, the art of self-reflection, like asking the questions, and taking the time to think through, like, what is my role in this? What am I experiencing? How could I see this differently? How could I do this differently? And, I am so grateful to have more and more people like that, like you, in my life, because this is something that I have always valued. And I think it's critical to human development, both individually and as a species. And that leads me to our connection through American Real Live Tribe. I feel like in our group, so, we're going to talk more about the actual program with the founders. So everyone watching, like, stay tuned for that. But in this group, as we go live every single day, that art of self-reflection happens in the moments. So normally the process is like dig in to the, inner world, talk it out, so you go from intra to interpersonal kind of reflection. And then you're kind of like, well, how is this going to shape how I show up in the world? But we do it naturally in this group. And because you have that skill and that gift, and there's, like a handful of people coming into the group that already have that, we're able to hold that space for all these other people to be able to learn this skill as well. Right? So beautiful. Tell me, what is the greatest thing that you're taking away so far from American Real Live Tribe? Like, what's on your heart?
I think the biggest thing for me is, it's really twofold. It was like a lot of things at once. It was just really a lot of things. It was giving me creative ideas. It solidified some things that I already like know and feel, but really just like showing up and pushing yourself, because there's just days where I'm like, I really sit there and I'm like, I really have to show up for 60 seconds. It's not a long time, and that's honestly why I do them late at night, because I'm just like avoiding them all day. Unless I'm just inspired to go on. I'm like, oh, hey guys, but like showing up, pushing yourself to show up, showing up as an expert, showing up and know that you know what you're talking about, because I think I don't always have words for what I know, it's kind of just, it's very channeled, and it's very just in tune with my purpose and who I am. There's a lot of people who are psychic, or, I can read people's energies. I can feel people's energies. I can feel where their chakras are blocked, all of that stuff. And because I'm just now getting to a point of embracing that holistic spiritual side, other than being wise. I think I've been wise since I was like 5, because I was very, very aware, and I just seen it in a different way that other kids didn't. I noticed that at a young age. But like showing up as an expert and not trying to be too scripted, not trying to be matter of fact, or just be myself, and it's pushed me to like solidify my voice, to, you know, with the cycle 3, I'm like, okay, I have to be like the animated, like expert Eb as well, and not just this. I'm just goofy. I'm goofy. I like to laugh. I like to make, like, everyone that knows me, I make fun about the things that happen in life. Like, even my clients, like, I'll tell you about yourself, but you'll probably be like cry laughing because you know it's true. You know, it might hurt a little bit, but you know, we're gonna work through it. So solidifying yourself as an expert and just being okay with that, and you know, not backing down from it. That's what it's done for me, just at this stage in my business and my life, to say, you know, I am an expert and I do know these things. And I've had to even change the way I worded things. Like in my old videos from just previous lives, I would say, oh, so Tony Robbins talks about this too. And I always watch what I say back because I want to learn from myself as well. So I noticed that in saying that, you downgrade your perspective, right? You say, oh, Oprah says it too. Ayanna talks about this all the time. You know, Obama was talking about this. You just start naming people to validate your opinion. And that's what I was doing in a lot of my videos. So I had to take that away. And I'm like, okay, what I start saying is, I know. That's what I say. I know this to be a fact. This is the way it is. Because I do. I really do. And it's okay to say that. I don't need to reference Oprah to make myself valid, which is what I was doing. So that was huge for me. That was huge for me. For cycle 3, I mean, it's been showing up. Cycle 1, cycle 2, again, was like showing up, pushing yourself, commitment. Commitment was huge. And like, you know, sometimes you commit to something and you don't feel it. You're like, I don't want to do that today.
Right.
Like, I don't feel like doing that. And I think every time I've proven, and I think we all prove to ourselves, that when you push through and you still show up, it's always worth it. It's always worth it. Or you're like, oh, I don't want to go here. I don't really want to meet with these friends. And then you go and you're like, I'm so happy I did this. Like, this was so soulful for me. And to see people's response in the group, I don't always have a lot of time to respond to comments because it's a lot with all the other things we're doing sometimes to respond to everyone and keep having conversations about the conversation. But it just, it solidifies what I do and what I love to talk about and what I love to show up and discuss.
So reflecting on the commitment piece, I think one of my favorite quotes in the world is how, you know, commitment is showing up and doing the thing that you said you would do long after the feeling you said it in is gone. Right. So, and I feel that with you, right? It's like, there's definitely days like you're at the end of the day, it's like 11:55 and you're like, oh, I got to go on. I've got to go live. But on the note of, you know, the other things you're talking about being the expert, like that's it at the end of the day, right? Like we are the experts in our own lives. We are the experts in our own stories. And I know for a fact, I can tell already that, you know, this is why Roger is, you know, such a big fan of yours, Roger Brooks from American Real, obviously, like American Real Live Tribe, because you own your story. Right? And everyone has a story. That's their tagline, but you really own and embody your story. I'm so grateful that I'm getting to know more of it. I hope that you'll come back on to the podcast like a year from now to talk, see, I'm getting emotional, like talk about the emotion or the global movement of Queens Recognize Queens, right? Because it's just going to continue to grow. This is the kind of empowerment and really affirmation of women that we need in the world right now. You know,
you just gave me
part of our work. Yeah. And in the meantime, 2 things. Everyone who's watching, if you want to get to know Eb a little bit better, you can go on Facebook and find her page, Queens Recognize Queens. You can also hop on YouTube and search American Real with her name, Abdul Taurah, and you can watch her full story. It's not a full story, right? It's just a longer version, but in an hour, you certainly can't cover the beautiful tapestry that is your life, that you so richly weave in that story. So thank you. I know we have to hop off now, but please say you'll come back on a year from now and let me know where Queens Recognize Queens is heading.
Absolutely.
All right. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being such a beautiful light in this world. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Ditto.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I will make a commitment to making sure Eb is back and live in the studio a year from now, along with the person who connected the two of us, which is Roger Brooks. And we'll be hearing from him next. But I'm here to tell you that both of these incredible humans, who I will refer to as my everyday heroes, are part of what will be global movements. From Abdul Taurah's Queens, Recognized Queens, to Roger Brooks, American Real, and the Live Tribe 21. We're going to hear from him now. He's a man making a difference in this world.
All right, everybody, we are here with Roger Brooks. Hi, Roger. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Melissa.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Roger is the owner and founder of American Real, which he's going to tell you a little bit about. And one of the things that has really drawn me to Roger and his work is the fact that the tagline for American Real is everyone has a story. And obviously, for people who have watched my show before, this is something that I truly believe in too. I mean, we all have a story, and it's how we own it and how we tell it that makes a difference in this world, right? Like, one of the things that has been part of my life and my journey has been the Brené Brown quote that owning our story is perhaps one of the bravest things we'll ever do, right? And so I've watched some of the episodes of American Real. Roger, absolutely love the way you work. And so we'll put a link to have people be able to connect to American Real if they haven't before. But if you would just share a little bit about your background and why American Real and what is it all about?
Thank you. No, thank you so much. So yes, so my background is I've always had an interest in people in general and just the average person. I could recall just going back to my childhood. We grew up in a Slovak neighborhood. And I just remember this is back when they had gardens and, when it came time to shovel the snow or mow the lawn, it was a real community. So people were helping each other out. Unlike, I guess the neighborhood, some of the neighborhoods today where people just tend to stay to themselves. So I've always had a keen interest in people in general. And as I progressed in my career, I'm in the business of customer loyalty programs and treating customers with care, treating them like gold, as I like to say. I've always had an interest again in the relationship side of business, taking that extra, effort to not only, want to do business with people that could help you financially, but that you could connect with, personally. So that's been part of my career, for the last 25 years. I'm also a writer. And when our daughter was born back in 2002, she was born with a severe, what's called a hemangioma, which is a large tumor. It could be anywhere on the child's body, but this happened to be right on her eye.
Wow.
And that whole process of, she had 7 surgeries before she was 5 years old. And that whole process of not only experiencing that with our daughter, but also seeing the other children in the waiting room that were also waiting to go in for surgery that had these massive tumors or large birthmarks was, it affected me profoundly. So I put out a book called Faces. And the whole idea of Faces was to really show the person behind their face, their true story. So obviously we all have, our bodies that we were given, but who's really the person behind the face? So I did a couple of series of these books, featured 100 people over 2 years. And this is back before, social media and the internet was so popular.
Right.
And so fast forward to now, when I wanted to start a podcast, it was very natural for me to start a podcast that was an extension of that whole concept of featuring people. And as you said, our tagline is everyone has a story.
Mm-hmm.
So the premise is I could go down the street and take anyone and bring them into the studio, or I could contact a celebrity and bring them to the studio. It doesn't matter. People are people. Humans are humans across the board. No one is any better or any worse, and everyone's on a level playing field. But I think the media, makes that, especially with reality TV, I think a lot of people feel like they're lower than than others. And so what I'm trying to do is elevate the average person, to give the average person a voice, whatever their platform may be, so they could come onto our show or be part of some of our groups, which you're a part of, and really share their story.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And, as I mentioned before, this is something that I'm super passionate about as well. And really just drawing that story out of people, because so often, as you said, they don't value their own journey until they have the ability to really articulate it. And they're given a platform or a venue to do so. And then this sort of realization takes place, which is exactly what you just said, that it doesn't matter if it's a celebrity, it doesn't matter, where they grew up or how life happened for them. Like we all have these uniquely beautiful gifts to bring the world, which is, our history, our story, and us, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. So American Real is really incredible. And where I've been working with you is in Live Tribe 21, which is a new offering that you have, and I think is absolutely spectacular. It's such a gift to the world, really, because we are bringing people together from across the world. And I would love for you to share with our viewers a little bit more about that, because I think the idea behind Live Tribe 21 is absolutely brilliant and is just going to continue to grow and catapult people into owning their experiences and their stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. So really the way this came to be, I actually just stumbled upon it. So there's a gentleman in Scotland. His name is Gav Carlos.
Love Gav.
Great person. And he started this Live Tribe, which I became part of. And it had just begun maybe about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So I got into his group, and a week into it, I saw such a profound effect on myself that I asked him if we could replicate this within American Real. And he thought about it, and he came back a couple of days later and said, yes. So what it is, for people that don't know.
Yeah, they're like, what's a Live Tribe?
Yeah, right. So American Real Live Tribe 21 it's a 21-day challenge, and it's really a simple premise. The premise is you take a live video of yourself for 1 minute, for 60 seconds, every single day for 21 straight days. Mm-hmm. And as you know, because you've been doing it, it sounds easy. Oh, I could do that. I could get on and do a live video for 60 seconds every day. But what happens is there's a natural, maturation process, that there's a cycle that happens during that 21 days. And I could go through it quickly. So basically you start out with enthusiasm, like, okay, this is really cool. And you get on and you start talking, and, I did this myself, so I could talk about it.
Right.
You kind of talk about what you're good at, or, pontificate a little bit about do this, don't do that. But you're really there for yourself. You're not there for everyone else. So You start out with high enthusiasm. Then there's what we call the plateau, where you just kind of level off and you're just trying to figure out, what is this? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What am I going to say today? And then naturally there's what we call a dip, where you just kind of get discouraged and say, oh, it's 11 o'clock. I still haven't done my video. I really don't want to do it, but I have this commitment and I need to do it. So, but there's a lot of people that don't come out of that dip. They'll just quit.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is make sure we communicate with people so they understand this process. So when they are feeling down on themselves or the idea that they get out of that dip, and once they do, it's called the jump. And when you jump out of that dip, you go higher than the enthusiasm that you had from the beginning. And that helps propel you. By that time, you should be pretty close to your 3 weeks, and that would help propel you into the next cycle, which is cycle 2 of another 21-day challenge. Again, 60 seconds. The rules get a little bit tighter, but it actually takes 3 cycles to, this has been scientifically proven, 3 cycles of 21 days to really form a new habit. So we're hoping people could get through 3 cycles. And what happens naturally is you become a better communicator. You become better at accountability. You become better with commitment to the group, as we call the tribe. And you begin to reflect on your past videos, which is really remarkable when you go back and look. But at the end of all this, what we're what we're trying to do here is give a platform where people could become themselves, where people could become transparent and not afraid to share their realness, and their true self to the world.
I love this. And watching everyone go through it, knowing my own experience, you begin to validate those different stages, right? I have to add one for you, which was really interesting to me. There are a lot of people who are drawn to this because they know that it's something that they need to be able to do. And there's the fear stage, right? Like before the enthusiasm, there's the initial like hop in there and then you're like frozen. I'm not unaccustomed to being in front of video because I enjoy drawing people's stories out, right? So that's what gets me past my fear. But I have recommended a few people to the group, and several of them have really struggled with just the initial stage of doing that first 60 seconds. And I think once you do the first 60 seconds, there is that period of like, okay, I've got this. This is exciting. And then you do follow through those, those various stages that you talked about. So it's interesting. And it's beautiful to watch people kind of grow through that, right?
Right.
Like they truly grow through that and transform. And I know for myself, like going back and reflecting on past videos, there was that realization of like, wait a second, I'm bringing my energy here. I almost felt like for people who remember The Real World on MTV, I felt like I was getting to the end of the day and doing these like video diaries. Nobody cares, right? So then it was really just opening up in a way that allowed myself to sort of pour into it, but in a way that would reach out and connect to somebody else, and that is truly my mission, right? Which is to, if one person is impacted by that story, then I've done my job.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And look, you bring up a great point about the fear. I think that's probably something we're missing in our training. So we're going to add that in. I think that's a great idea because there's probably, 50 people in the group that have never posted their first video because of that fear factor. So we need to help people get past that. But the other thing that I really love about this, and you kind of alluded to it, is when you're doing your 60 seconds, you become very present with the moment. And I think that's a struggle most of us have, is not being present, especially when we get into our routines and, just kind of go through life and the kids and this and that, work, and we get, we conform, to society. So this helps you become more present in the moment when you're doing your live video, to really share and just kind of relax and be yourself. So I'm so happy that you're a part of it. I had no idea what you did professionally, when you came into the group. So it's wonderful to see you as a professional, as we are right now, but then also you day to day as a mom. That's remarkable. And it's that transparency that I think everyone needs in their life, to be able to not have to put on, and not that you do, we kind of all do it, but we put on this kind of mask or facade in our business world, whereas people just want to know who you are. And this platform, this forum allows that. And it's very safe. It's very secure. And, people aren't judging, everyone's encouraging, and you really become part of this community, as you said, with people from around the world.
Yeah. And I remember as a child, like I used to have these dreams and read a lot of this utopian fiction and dream about the ability to use technology before we were able to do this, right? But the ability to use technology to create community and connection. And that's what is truly happening here. And it's absolutely beautiful. So one thing I want to talk about before we go, Roger, is like, if you were looking back 50 years from now, what is the legacy that you want to leave with this? And of course, we're going to put links in the podcast so people can go check out, American Real and get to know Live Tribe 21 a little bit more. But to know you, really, like, what is the legacy that you would love to leave with all of this?
Well, thanks for asking. That's usually a question I ask my guests on my show. So I don't think anyone's ever asked me this question. So I appreciate that. My legacy is to connect people, to give them a voice, to allow people to share their views, to share their story, no matter where they are in the world. And you just said it now. The technology we have, our phones and our computers are a window to the world. And if I could do, right now it's a small scale, say we have maybe 10, 20,000 people that follow us. My legacy, I want to get that into the millions so we could affect millions and millions of lives and give millions of people a platform to voice, their story, because everyone's story is important. So my legacy is giving people their legacy. And that's what I hope I can do.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. And, what's so great is, so there were a couple social media posts that I put out there over the last week. One of them was about the masks that you were talking about, and being able to be transparent and authentic and just show up as our true selves. And that is where people truly connect with us, right? The other thing that happens, and this was something that I think one of my videos in the group was about as well, is when we can really relate to each other as human beings, as human beings, like no barriers, no gender, race, politics, all of that kind of stuff. When we strip all of that away and we're just connecting with each other for those moments, we create a positivity resonance or love between two people in a way that bridges a lot of barriers.
Yes. And
so beyond the ability to get people to really own their story and connect, in a friendly way or in a way that, builds a professional network or whatever, we're talking about something that is a true gift to humanity. Yeah. Right. And I do believe this is going viral. Like, I'm so grateful that you put this out here.
I do too. And look, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it just feels right. And it feels like if we look back 12 months from now, and look on this, reflect on this interview, we'll say, wow, we were part of the founding members that made this happen. And I'm in it just as much as you are, so I'm no better than anyone else in the group. I'm living this, I'm becoming a better person every day. And in turn, this platform, I believe, will be something, very special 1 year, 3 years, 5 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait until we have the opportunity to look back on that. But you know what? I'm going to enjoy every moment until then as well.
Me too.
Because each step in the process is going to be another lesson to learn. It's going to be more lives that are touched, more lives that are changed. And I want to thank you again for coming on here today. And we'll make sure that we post some links so people can get to know both American Real and Live Tribe 21 a little bit better. I would love to do another shout out to Gav, because he is a spectacular player in all of this, and to his son Jack.
Jack is awesome. They're both awesome people. Yes.
That's so great. We tried to connect by phone last weekend. Had a little bit of a challenge with my little Jack because mine is only going on 2 years. But it's just fun that here we are connecting again with people across the world, and over something that is both so enriching, but also so simple. It's so simple. This is what I do for my life, for my career. I'm in network marketing. I've been doing it for 11 years, and it's just about building relationships. But this is a beautiful way to do it, and I'm not doing this for my career. I'm doing this for me personally, because this has pushed me into a whole new realm. So for those of you who are watching, I hope you've enjoyed this interview with Roger Brooks, founder and owner of American Real and Live Tribe 21. And I hope that you check out what it is we are doing. I'm grateful to be a founding member and support this project, because it is going to make some great ripples across the world. So thank you, Roger.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Take
Thanks.
care. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. So far, you've met Abdul Taurah from Queens, Recognized Queens, and Roger Brooks from American Real. And let me tell you, these are two incredible human beings that I'm so grateful to cross paths with once again. Serendipity lined it up, right? Thank you, universe. 3 things these two share in common, I will tell you, is the authenticity with which they show up and how they believe in helping others show up, the empowerment that they give other human beings in the world to really own their story, and also this American Real Live Tribe, right? So I would like to share with you my own personal testimony about how this has been going, because I'm now in my 4th cycle of this journey. So check it out. Hi there, Melissa Killeleagh here. You might not know me, but I just wanted to come and share with you a little bit about my experience with Live Tribe 21. I joined the group several weeks ago now, so we'll be finishing up our first 21 days together, and it has been quite an impactful experience. I am a network marketing professional. I'm also in business and lifestyle coaching, and I do a lot of philanthropic work. I'm not unfamiliar with the camera, but something about having to show up for 60 seconds every day requires not only this internal commitment to our own story, but this commitment to our tribe, this commitment to this connection to people that are throughout the US, throughout the world. And it also requires a level of discernment about what you're putting forward for your own image and what is authentically you. And so I'm having quite a blast with this and looking forward to the next 21 days. So if you're looking at this, give it a shot. You won't regret it.
If you're up for a challenge and you want to get out of your comfort zone, enroll in the American Real 21-Day Challenge through our free private Facebook group. Your challenge will be to post a live 60-second video each day for 21 straight days to build skills of confidence, leadership, and grow your network in a safe and secure environment. You'll quickly see how turning up each day gives you more clarity, purpose, and drive to come into your own. Our team is here to help support you and provide you with the tools you need to become more present, committed, so you can value the power of your own story. Click on the link below to join American Real Live Tribe 21 and start your 21-day challenge today. This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks, and today our very special guest is you.
All right, you guys, we're going to flip back to a photo that you saw in that advertisement for a moment. Pretty powerful here. So here's what I want to share with you. That was a couple days in to my first 21-day challenge. And here's what you learned today. You learned a little bit about a woman who's making the world a better place, a man making a difference in the world, and this incredible Live Tribe 21-Day Challenge, sponsored by American Real, bringing all of us together. And that photo literally representing just the first few days of videos from all of us. And this is what I want to leave you with, ideas and inspiration. Think about this. 14 years ago, I stood in front of 4,000 people at Binghamton University for our graduate school commencement ceremony and talked about building community out in the world, and that it's our job to do so. And I shared the quote from the late anthropologist Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small, thoughtful group of citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." I guarantee that the founding members of this group will, in fact, change the world, but so will everyone who joins us from now on. So, you up for the challenge? I double dog dare you. Have a great day, you guys, and we'll see you next month.